we've had a number of folks who have had issues like that where they've been able to pull up information and reports, documentation off the system, and it quickly thwarts, whether it's a wrongful termination claim, whether it's a regulator looking at for some violations. When you can pull out and demonstrate that you have a process in place and you have information readily at your fingertips, that's a very, very powerful position to be in. The system has delivered into this employee's inbox 7 or 8 policies that they need to read, sign off on, and it'll be forever date and time stamped. It'll keep every version. If you update the OFAC version 6 times, it'll keep every version that they have read and signed off on. And the system will automatically can automatically have delivered the new versions if it's so tagged. So there's policies requiring sign-off. There's required training this person needs to take. If there were any forms requiring their action, they were a supervisor, for example, and somebody had sent them a vacation request form or a family medical leave form, that would drop into their inbox and it'd be automatic notification that they need to look at that form and either approve it, deny it, move it on. So there's instant notification of all these kind of activities. So as you can imagine, things end up getting done. I mean, vacation requests, which are kind of a pain for everybody. It's amazing how many vacation requests that are run through this kind of a process. And so it takes seconds instead of minutes or hours or getting lost or who knows what. So there's electronic personnel files. So again, no paper. This takes everything on a compliance basis to a paperless environment, which has huge cost savings in its own right. So again, when you're looking at leveraging the technology and making sure that you can quickly access information, that's something that you'd want to look for in a compliance system, is just to make sure that it doesn't require yet more paper or more manual intervention. There's a lot of areas in the organization you should expect to see the payback. Operationally, the ability to manage by exception, really focusing on the risk points as opposed to just everything in general. There are savings inherent in that. The ability to instantly and comprehensively communicate with 100% of your employees. We've had dealers tell us this is the only system they've ever seen, only capability they have, where they can communicate quickly with all of their employees. Vehicle damage is the #1 cause for claims in the dealership space. So you may have defensive driving programs that you're working with your carrier on. You may have other theft, lot security, other programs you're working on with your insurance carriers. See if you can get those migrated to an automated approach. And by leveraging that, that's an area you can really drive down, because after personnel costs and flooring costs and things, insurance is probably the #1 expense in a dealership. So think about some of those things that it could be CSI, it could be some of the products your F&I and salespeople are selling. The etching and the extended warranties. There's ways to migrate that kind of requirement onto this sort of capability. So those are, again, efficiencies in the automatic documentation and the ability to know whether people have actually looked at it, done it, learned the trainings, those sort of things. In terms of productivity, this particular company was able to, over time, absorb 2 administrative staff simply because they no longer process all of the paper and do all of the compliance activities manually across at the time. Now this one is outside the dealership space, but I wanted to show you how you can influence frequency and severity. So we had a couple of, prior to our auto years, we had a couple of one distribution company, one nonprofit company focus this approach on their workers' comp, which was a high-cost line item for them. And in both situations, in a little over 2 years, they drove over 90% of the cost out of it. And again, it's not rocket science. It's just taking the existing loss control programs they had, the processes they had, but automating them and just using technology to constantly pepper the people that need to be peppered. In terms of it, working with your insurance carrier, if this is an interest for you folks, you really should. If you're using a compliance approach, you really should let them know as your loss control provider that this is how you're doing things now. But that's going to give you the ability to demonstrate to them over time that here's what you're doing, every employee is involved, this is why you're driving risk out of the organization. And so with that, at that point, you should request of them some recognition of it. So an adverse action policy, this one happens to have been developed by Hudson Cook, but again, you may have your own that could be used in lieu of this, or you can use this as a starting point if that's of interest. So there's the adverse action policy that requires this person to read it and sign off on it. There's an adverse action training. In this case, it's a CBT, computer-based training that's been developed by Michael Benoit of Hudson Cook and Rob Cohen of Auto Advisory Services. that's about a 20-minute video or a CBT that's available, has Q&A built into it. Again, if you have other alternative means of training, that can be utilized as well, but the point is you want to, in some fashion, assess their learning knowledge, make sure that's documented. In a typical approach like this, there's administrators at the dealership that handle the system administration, and there's anywhere from one to several of them, and once they set up these initial flags, if you will, on all this content, it's automatically repeated until they're changed. So there's sort of that one-time setup on each individual content piece, but after that it's very easy and not much manual intervention required. So this is a way to check the status of any given program. You can also track every outstanding item in the organization at any point in time. So it could be as routine and mundane as a vacation request, or it could be as serious as a harassment report or an injury report. You can see there's injury report forms. So anytime something is opened but not resolved and filed, there's instant visibility in real time so that people at the senior level, whoever needs to know this information, can look at this report daily and kind of assess, is there anything of concern? Is there anything that's stale? Is there anything that's big and creates risk for the organization that needs to get moved along? So that's very helpful in risk management. So the overall point is this is a real emerging capability. So, if you're not as familiar with it or you want to learn more about it, whether it's through our company or other companies, it tends to be a growing development in terms of 20 group activity, conference activity. So there is a lot of knowledge out there, and there's webinars, there's user groups, 20 groups talk about it. So there is a lot of information out there if you want to learn more. So there's archives on our website. We have some archived webinars on adverse action, red flag. I'm sure others have it as well. So just know that there's additional information out there that you can consider when looking at an approach like this.